According to the liberals, the March for Our Lives rally is like the civil rights movement because progress, or something. Folks, do you realize now that the left are trying to compare the March for Our Lives rally to the civil rights movement? I mean, look, I'll get to why that's utterly insane in just a minute. But first, let me explain to you who's making this argument. Number one, Chuck Todd. On Sunday's Meet the Press, he said, "There's really a handful of marches that you remember, that our town remembers. The civil rights marches of the 60s, the abortion rights marches of the 80s and 90s, Tea Party, Million Man March. I think about those things. This is right up there." He said, of course, referring to the March for Our Lives. So the March for Our Lives rally is comparable to the civil rights movement? Are you kidding me? First of all, what an insult, by the way, to the people who really did participate in the civil rights movement. The people who really did march for their rights. What an insult. Compare this movement, the March for Our Lives, anti-gun control, anti-liberty movement, to the civil rights movement? You kidding me, Chuck Todd? There's a reason why you're called Up Chuck Todd. Person number two who's making this absurd comparison is Kamala Harris of California. She tweeted, "I'll remind you that the civil rights movement was in large part led by young people in their 20s. What I saw over the weekend reminds me of that. Young leaders leading." Oh, okay, so because these happen to be young people, and according to her, the civil rights movement was led by a lot of young people, you can compare the two. That really doesn't make much sense to me, ladies and gentlemen. It's a stupid comparison. Now, let me explain. It really is quite simple. I'm sure many of you already know why it's stupid without me even having to say it. The civil rights movement, what were they marching for? Say it with me, folks. Their rights, right? Isn't that what they were marching for? Their rights? March for Our Lives, what are they marching for? To do away with our rights. I mean, they're literally marching to make the circle of liberty that exists around each and every one of us smaller and smaller and smaller. That's what they're marching for. They're marching to do away with our Second Amendment rights. What kind of an idiot would compare this anti-liberty rally to the civil rights movement? How dumb are these liberals? You gotta laugh, folks. You gotta laugh to stay sane.